Would you say there's a lot of difference in the way the work is, the way the culture is between working in a Mexico franchise and then working in the US franchises?
So that's a great question. Yeah, great, really great question, because I think we need to separate two things. So one is the culture of the people of the country, right? And the obligation or the commitment that you need to have to the brand you represent. So that I think that those are two very different things. Because working in two different countries, part of my job when I was especially in corporate and doing a lot of international travel is that the Big Mac you're tasting in Quito, Ecuador, should be the same taste profile than you have in Guayaquil, Ecuador, or you have in Lima, Peru, or you have in Buenos Aires, Argentina, right? So you always need to remember that. I think that the, the corporate culture in every office, in every market is different because that's who they are. You cannot expect a Mexican behaving the same way, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way. A Mexican would not behave the same in his office that a Brazilian. Brazilians, if there's somebody that I have found that really enjoy what they're doing, having fun, are Brazilians. And on another topic, they are perfectionists, by the way, but that's another topic. Uh, but they behave in a way because that's who they are. They still enforcing the McDonald's standard because that's the obligation of anybody that works for a brand. You're a brand ambassador. You're a brand ambassador. So your first job and your most important job is to make sure that there's nothing happening that will hurt the brand. That's the number one thing. So I think that once you understand how to separate the two behaviors, you're in a good place. And the cool part is you're still part of the family. You're still part of the family. I mean, if you go to the worldwide convention, so I have been into worldwide convention with two different brands, one with Burger King, one with McDonald's, a completely different setup. But you see people from Europe, you see people from the US, you see people from everywhere around the world. And they still love what they do, which is they work for the brand, or they work as a franchisee of the brand, or they work as a vendor supplier of that brand. So I think that corporate culture is one thing, and that's why every company, my opinion, should have their own set of mission, vision, and values. And part of everybody that works in around that brand should have the same mission, vision, and values. Apply it to every single day you do at work. And you go to an office and yeah, you say hi, and there are people like if you go to in Argentina, first time I went there, and my first visit, um, some of the guys, came, hugged me, and give me a kiss. So at the beginning, I said, "What the heck's going on?" Until the director of operations told me, "No, no, dude, don't take it wrong. Here in Argentina, men kiss men on the cheek. Okay, fine. They can kiss me as much as they want. Um, yeah, and in I want to say in Ecuador, they're very respectful, right? So it's a handshake. Venezuelans, same thing. They're huggers. So once you understand that, you're able to understand how well the brand has been adapted to those countries, if you can say. Because yes, they're still brand values, right? For sure they should have, you know. But there's also a part of culture that is embedded into that culture that make it unique. Yes, we still sell Big Macs, we still sell Egg McMuffins, but the way it's done, even though there's same procedures, and that's the reason that it's called standards. You need to follow the standard to the T and so forth. Everybody is able to put like a new different touch on what they do. So again, great question, and I think I expanded. But I think you need to understand the country where you're doing business and the corporate or the brand culture. And what I have seen is it might sound a little cheesy, but there's a point that both of them merge. And when that happens, man, all things go beautiful. All things go
That is
beautiful.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. I absolutely love it. And I completely agree with you. And I really, really like how you broke that down. Because you're absolutely right. Culture is super, super unique. And I talk about culture all the time here on this podcast. And the way that you split it up is you have your geographical culture, which is the customs, which is kind of the personality of the nation itself or of the geographical location. And this could be as like minute as, the city of St. Louis isn't that far from the city of Chicago, but they are completely
Oh,
different in the way they act, things like
absolutely.
that. And
Yeah.
then kind of going more grander scheme, I think that's really, really great for anyone who is doing international work or considering opening up a location in, different nations. That's absolutely right. The way that someone interacts in one location is completely different from other place. So I think you broke that down perfectly. And if someone was trying to jump into kind of the international business game, what would kind of be the best way to handle that? I think one thing that McDonald's does extremely well is the buy-in. Like you said, having the company vision, the goals, the mission. Like that's why McDonald's, in my opinion at least, is so massive, is that it's such a strong brand built from like wins. Like it's not just, we say we're great or we say we're the best. Like they have something that people buy into. Like they buy into the idea of McDonald's. And that's why you have such great brand representation all over the world. Like the quality control has to be there, the supply chain management has to be there, the culture has to be there, the buy-in has to be there. Like there's so much that goes into it. So someone trying to jump into, the international space, like high level, what would you recommend? Like what should they do tactically to jump into that field?
Um, it's it's very interesting what you're saying because it applies a different type of situation. I remember going over the phone with some a couple of gentlemen, some investors that were planning to put a barbecue business in Mexico City. Or no, excuse me, the other way around. There were investors in Mexico that were trying to open a barbecue chain here in the U.S. So the first thing I told them is, what type of barbecue are you going to use? You're going to sell, because you have the Missouri barbecue, Carolina barbecue, Texas barbecue, Louisiana barbecue, Indiana barbecue. Everybody has a different type of barbecue, right? So you cannot say, oh, we're going to do the smoky ribs that they do in St. Louis and sell it with the Texas brisket. No, that's not how it works. So you need to do really a good deep dive on the customs and the ethnicity of the place. Let's say if you're gonna put uh, this will sound like a crazy analogy, but the reason Taco Bell will never have success in Mexico is because the tacos are different. Taco Bell does not want to sell Mexican food. Period. It's not Mexican food. We can call it Tex-Mex. We can call it American taco thing. It's actually a beautiful documentary about tacos and taco culture in Netflix. Very interesting, by the way, because they show the Mexican taco and then the U.S. taco, and you can see the difference. And even in the U.S., the tacos are different. Same with burritos. And if you go to Mexico, same thing. The tacos in the north are not going to be the same on the south. So you need to understand the ethnicity and the culture of that country. That's the first thing. Understand it, then do your homework, right? Do your homework and find this is very important. I think that the great success that some of the brands have had going into international markets is to be is to understand enough the culture of those places and how the brand could adapt to those places without losing the core. So, as an example, in the Philippines, McDonald's sells noodles because noodles is a staple of the Filipino people. In Costa Rica, they sell a thing called gallo pinto, which is uh, eggs and beans and something else, because that's the typical breakfast that people in Costa Rica have. And we can say in Central America, uh, they some countries they sell bone-in chicken product, right? Deep fried bone-in chicken. Okay, because again, that's a staple of the culture. In Mexico, there's jalapeno, or used to be jalapeno bowls at McDonald's. You open your Big Mac, you throw a couple of jalapenos because that's the way Mexicans eat. That's the way we eat. So first define your niche. What is the thing that I'm going to? Number two, see if there's a market. In other words, that's when I said use do your homework, analyze the trends, analyze the patterns, right? Because unfortunately, as a brand starts to grow, the biggest temptation and the biggest risk that you have is lose your core. When I say lose your core is what make the big jump, right? So then going to the example of Taco Bell. So Taco Bell will never succeed in Mexico, probably in the north, right? But if a Mexican tries to put a Mexican taco place in the US, he will need to fight with all the moms and pops that are around. And again, do your homework, because if you look at the border, it's very heavy on Hispanic population. But if you go to the north, not so much. So you need to do your homework. If you go to California, let's say California, New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, yeah, that border. Well, yeah, there's a lot of Mexicans. There will be a lot of recognition for the product, but you will be competing against a lot of people that have their own moms and pops restaurants, or even some little chains. So that's one thing. The other thing is make sure that your product is going to be good. It is going to be accepted, and well perceived by the population that you're going to, the market that you're going in, right? Because believe it or not, people want to have their Big Macs in Singapore the same way they like to have their bone chicken. That's another market that has bone chicken. Yes, they have the Big Mac, but they also want to have if you go to Germany, to McDonald's, then okay, your wife will be having the Big Mac. Well, not my wife; she will be having a salad, but I will probably be having my bratwurst. That's part of the culture. And if you're in Spain, you can have a bowl of gazpacho soup, you know, while eating a Big Mac. So there's a tropicalization. That's the word I was looking for. There's a tropicalization that needs to happen, but you need to be very careful in a way to make it just unique to that place. But at the same on the same token, make it still brand with brand relevance. It needs to be a brand relevance on those things. So even in areas, McDonald's, as you know, it's like this with Coke, right? We're married, we're twin brothers from the hip, and all of those things. But one of the things they do is that, sorry, um, is respect that area that the customers are used to. Like, so in the Michigan restaurants, you have one type of soft drink, then you don't have across the border from Indiana, that you don't have in Illinois. And another example, there are specific products in one state that will not be in one state, or in one city from another city. You need to respect that part. The culture and the costumes of the population are very important, and that's part of the homework that you need to do. You know, you need to do a lot of research. It's possible, yes. I don't disagree with that. I was talking to a friend that had this wonderful idea of, doing pastas and sauces, and said that. So I told him, that's a great idea, but have you gone to Fasolis? Fasolis is doing that already. So I think that the challenge is to be unique in a way. When you're going to a market, you need to be unique. What is the one thing that is going to separate you from the competition? So I'm sorry, I expanded a lot, but I
No, no, no.
think
I
that
love it.
do your homework. That would be do your homework. Do your homework. Make sure that people will accept the product. If you're a big company, do your focus groups to see, serve them your product to see if there's well accepted. Don't go, don't think that the name is going to do everything. That's part of the role. But, if you see a restaurant, let's use another brand, Subway. Yeah. Probably if you go to Subway and no, that's a good one. I'm sorry. Let me take another step back. So in Argentina, the name for the same in Mexico, the name of the product in Argentina known as dulce de leche is an insult for Argentinians.
Mm.
Okay, an insult. I mean, if you say that out loud, probably they will say, "Dude, don't say that anymore." But if you say it again, they're going to punch you in the face. So it's a small, simple example, but those are the things that you need to find out. How much acceptance they have, because the meaning is different. Um, my wife works as a translator, so one of the things she was telling me, and thing I found that fascinating, is that sometimes you need to translate in something that is called neutral Spanish or neutral language, because you can say banana is called banana in some countries, guineo in another countries, and plátano in another countries. So, which word do you use to make people understand that you're talking about the same thing? So all of those things, you really need to do a deep dive in when you're trying to expand international. And what are the things, what is your target market, and what are the habits of that target market? Even in the same city, different segments will have different behaviors. So you really need to do a deep dive. It's not, personally, I think that's those days of build it, open the doors, and they will come. Long gone, long gone. I
Mm.
think you need to do your homework if you're gonna sell Vietnamese pho, to if you're gonna sell, I don't know, Argentinian asado, and you just put the name and open the door. No, those are gone. Plus, you have all these, what they call it, Asian fusion, which is basically they get you Chinese sushi and Vietnamese in the same place,
Yep.
or Latin fusion, same thing. You can get yuca frita, you can get a Cuban sandwich, and you can have some tacos. So that is changing a lot, right? So find your niche, do your homework, do some study. That's all. I don't think personally that just the name of the brand is going to take you, all over the place. I expanded a lot. I'm sorry.
No. Like I said, that's exactly what we're looking for here. And I think that the way you broke it down was actually super tactful. Like that's a way that people can actionably identify, like you said, do the homework, see what they got to do. And you're absolutely right. The geography is so important because you've got the culture that is core to that group, and then you go more granular, more into it. And then that city, that street is different from 3 streets down or the block over. Like
Yeah.
everything is so granular, and doing that research I think is such great advice, because realistically that's the research you need to do anyways. Like even in your own, if you're opening a restaurant in your own hometown, you need to do the same research
Yeah.
as if you were going to go international, because you have to use the lens, like the perception of someone else. Because what is my target market, who exactly, how am I going to market it to them, what is my special sauce, or what is my special kind of give, what is my value proposition that makes me unique, makes me stand out. Because you're right, brand recognition nowadays, that helps you if for lazy marketers kind of thing, where like I'll drive down the road, I've got McDonald's, Taco Bell, Raising Cane's, Subway, I know what these places taste like, so I might pick very quickly. So very, very large scale, having that brand recognition, completely get it. But if you don't have that big name, like you need to push and you need to do your research. You need to make yourself special. You need to get word of mouth built up and have that
Yeah.
conversation going out. So I love it. The way that you broke it down, I completely love it. Don't apologize. Um, Awesome. And then one thing that I think the McDonald's and other like really large organizations do super, super well is quality control. Can you break down what exactly is the supply chain management like? Like how is it that I can go to Japan and have the same, like you said, Big Mac as if I was in, Britain, or the same exact one as if I was in, Puerto Rico? Like, what's the process there?
So I'm gonna talk about one of my mentors, uh, because it's a long story. We go back in time a lot. Um, Name is JC Gonzalez Mendez, and he was the president of Supply Chain USA at a point in time. Okay, and then I worked with him a couple of times. I work here in the US for him, and in Mexico, same thing for him. But his area of expertise was supply chain, and one of the things that I asked him is, that how can you do it? And he said, one time he responded to me, you won't believe how many times I travel to a market with the samples of the Big Mac sauce and the ketchup and the mustard and everything, samples, and start delivering the vendors. Because usually, and I might be wrong, um, but I remember, and again at the beginning of my career, seeing all these McDonald's guys going to the restaurant, and we were just serving them food, or put ketchup in little cups, or 5 different types of ketchup, and they were doing evaluations on that.